In today's video, there is a compilation of videos just for you. Please sit back and enjoy. And in the comments, let me know if you've seen them in the original content or if this is your first time seeing them. Let's watch.
Creations. I'm so glad you joined me today because we are going to make this gorgeous pumpkin decor piece with very little glue. So we're going out to the shop and we're going to cut some wood. I'm going to cut all of these about 10 inches. I'm going to use one to measure the next one. And you know what? They don't all end up exactly the same length, but that's okay because this is a rustic piece. Just using this scrap wood that I have out in the shop and just easy peasy. I'm going to line that saw blade up with my line. And cut it just like that. Now I'm going to take it in where it's nice and cool because it was 111 degrees today outside and I was in that hot shop cutting that wood. So I'm going to take this in. I'm using this 60 or 80 grit sandpaper and just giving it a quick little sand. We want it to stay rustic. Now I'm going to use the vintage linen paint by DIY and going to just pour some into this little takeout lid. And I'm just going to give it a rough paint job. I'm not looking for any kind of full coverage at all. I'm using a chippy brush so that it looks rustic. And I'm also going to put another coat of paint on top of this, but I'm going to paint all the sides, the front, the back, all of it with this same technique. All of the pieces involved. Then I'm going to take Summer Crush by DIY Paint, and I get all my DIY paints from Sammy at www.unicorndustdesigns.com. You can go over there, you can get all your DIY or recycled papers and all kinds of vintage goodies for sale over there. So go and check out her website. I'll have it linked in the description box below. And just go over there and go shopping and have a good time. I love the DIY paints. I'm going to just do the same technique with the Summer Crush. And this is a beautiful orange. It's great for fall. Now, instead of using glue, we're going to make our own little kind of dowel sticks here. Now, I'm using these skewers. And I'm showing you that I got a drill bit that's the same size to drill my holes. And this was one of those 36-inch skewers from Dollar Tree that they only have in the summertime, but they're a little bit bigger around than the regular ones. And so I've just marked off how long I want them. I'm going to take my miter shears, and it cuts these just like butter. So easy. I hesitate because I don't want it to fling it across the room, so I'm being a little bit gentle with how I cut them. Then I'm going to drill a hole, and then I'm going to put these little pegs in, making my own little pegs. And we're going to, you've probably seen furniture that has this method to hold it together. And I just thought this would be easier because a lot of times my scrap wood is not even. And so when you try to glue it together, it doesn't make full contact. So this will be easier. So I'm just going to hammer these down into the little holes. And then I'm going to put them up next to each other and find out where my next holes need to be. I'm just going to make little marks and then drill the other holes because sometimes my holes are not even. I do things kind of fly by the seat of my pants, but that's okay. That's part of being creative. And now I'm going to drill the holes in there and this side, and then I will connect them. Now you could put a little wood glue in there if they don't fit tightly, but mine fit pretty tightly. I'm not worried about them coming apart at all. And when I get 3 of these, well, I did 2 of these together. This is actually going to be the middle piece of our pumpkin. I'm trying to hit it with my hand. Let's get the hammer out. Very sturdy, very good. So that's going to be the middle piece. And then I have these 3 pieces I'm going to do the same thing with. So I'm going to measure out 2 inches in and then in the middle. And I'm going to do that on each end. And then I'm going to drill holes there. It's important to make sure you're going straight up and down too, which is a little bit difficult when you're going on such a small, thin piece of wood. But from what I can tell, I did good. Yeah, that pine was a little bit wet, and it really smelled so nice. It made my craft room smell like pine. So I'm going to use 1 piece of wood to keep it straight across the bottom, and then I'm going to mark where I need to make a hole, where I need to drill. I'm going to drill that little spot out, and then I'm going to line that up and then mark where my next one should go, making sure it fits. Yep, fits nice and snugly. Snuggly or snugly, either way. Now this one had a little crack in it, and I was kind of worried that this piece of wood might split, but it did not. It was beautiful, worked great. So I'm just going to pop those 2 together, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the other piece to get these 3 pieces hooked together. Now, there they are hooked together. Now, the 2 pieces that I hooked together earlier, we're going to attach to the 3 pieces that are hooked together by those 2 little pegs on the back side. Oops, see them? There they are. It's really difficult for me to keep this in the frame, and I apologize, but you can still kind of see what I'm doing. I'm just marking where I need to drill those holes so that we can stick those in there. I probably should have done 1 at the bottom, but I did put a little wood glue at the bottom instead of a peg. Now they look crooked, but it's because these were crooked on the back, because they fit just fine. Very good. Yay! Okay, now I'm going to use a little bit of this Titebond Quick and Thick, and I'm going to just squirt it up underneath between there where it's making contact, and that's going to just give it a little extra added strength. Okay, I drilled a hole all the way through. I sure did, but no worries. When you see in the end, you're not even going to notice it. So I went ahead and hammered my peg all the way through. So it just it's going to make it flush. And then I'm going to do the same process for this one as I did the second layer. And we'll call this the top layer. And then we're just going to hammer that in. Same song, same second verse, same as the first. And then I'm going to stick a little bit more of that glue at the bottom like I did on the second layer. And then I'm going to take some sandpaper. I'm just going to sand down that little piece of wood that was sticking out, and you can't even tell. Now I'm going to darken up this summer crush a little bit with some weathered wood, because I want to give this little pumpkin a little bit of dimension. And I got too much weathered wood, so I just added a little more summer crush. And I'm going to kind of dry brush a little, not quite dry brush, but not super wet either. Just in the crevices and kind of where the pumpkin would have those creases. And then I took some just a little bit of weathered wood and did it right around the edges. I did that. This was more of a dry brush. I just did it kind of around the edges a little bit. I love this weathered wood. I think it's a beautiful color. It's kind of a grayish brown, more of a gray tone, but it's just beautiful. So I'm drying it up with the heat gun so that we can speed this process up. I'm going to take that little, it's either 60 or 80 grit. I can't really remember. It came with my orbital sander sanding pads. And so I just use them by hand. But I'm just going to give this a little bit of distressing in a few areas. And then I'm going to seal it with Big Top by DIY. I really have grown to love this sealer. We're going to seal our DIY paint because it is water soluble. And if we don't seal it, when it gets wet or moisture hits it, it's going to reactivate it and it could be a huge mess. And so we work too hard on our projects not to take care of them properly. So we're going to seal this up, front, back, sides, the whole 9 yards. And it also helps that paint to dry a richer color than if you wax it. Now, this is part of a spindle off of a chair. And yeah, I just drilled a hole in the bottom just like I did on the other pieces. Now, this was the handle of one of these sponge paint brushes, and I always save them. And I used my miter shears to cut it the length I wanted. I'm showing you how easy it is. That just pops off because that wood is so soft. And so I'm going to use that to attach that to the top of our pumpkin piece. Hammer that down in there good, like a peg. And then I'm going to put a hole right there and then stick that down in there. There's my hole. Now, this was a process. I was going to stick this in there and glue it down. Then I decided I needed to do something to it first. See, I start with the tight bond, quick and thick. And I decide I'm going to squirt some down in there. And I'm trying to put that stem in there. And then I decide, wait, I need to do something to this stem. Which I should have just left it alone. But I do love how it turns out in the end. So I decided I was going to wrap this burlap ribbon, this really wide burlap ribbon around here. And then I decided I didn't really like that. So I was going to wrap some twine around it. Well, then I started wrapping a bunch of twine around it. I mean a lot of twine. And then I get to the end and it is just looking like a hot mess. I don't even know what this looked like. I don't know. It looked like something, well, the birds make nicer nests than this. Anyway, so I just ripped it all off, ripped every bit of that off, sanded it down, all that hot glue off there, and I think it looks great. I should have just done that in the first place. So now back to the glue because the glue's already dried at this point. So I put some of that wood glue in there. I put some wood glue on the stem. I think I did. Oh, I put it on the pumpkin. I'm going to put the hot glue on the stem on the opposite side where the wood glue is going to be, just for a quick hold while the wood glue or the tight bond until it sets up. Okay, now I have some raffia, I have some twine, and I have this lace crocheted ribbon from Dollar Tree. If you've been here very long, you know that I love that ribbon. Every time I find it, I grab some up. And this was kind of a new one to me, so I really liked it. So I'm going to wrap this raffia and this ribbon around the base of this stem. I think I've been calling it a stump. Okay, it's a stem. It's our makeshift stem. And then I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue at the base so that our raffia and our ribbon don't slide off. So I'm going to put a little bit in the back there, and then I'll put a little bit in the front right behind our knot, just so it'll stay where we want it to. Then I'm just going to make a knot. I feel like I'm trying to braid curly hair here, trying to keep all of these pieces all together where they're supposed to be. Okay, and then I'm going to, just with the crochet ribbon, I'm going to tie a bow. Oh, I didn't show that part. And then I'm going to do this technique that I absolutely love to do. I'm going to wrap that raffia around a dowel rod. This is a large dowel rod I have in my stash I use for things like this. I'm going to take my heat gun and I'm going to dry that up instead of putting it in the oven like we used to back in the day. You know, back in the 80s and 90s. Just going to use the little heat gun and dry that. Now I just spritzed it with my little mister just to get it damp, and then look how cute that is. It looks like little tendrils. I do cut those off a little bit shorter when I trim it all up at the end, but I'm going to do the same thing on this side, just in fast motion. It would be nice if we could really work that fast. Anyway, I think this really turns out great. I love it. You let me know what you think about it. Do you have any scrap wood laying around that you could do this with? I think this is about 10 inches tall. The wood pieces are 10 inches tall. So it's a nice sturdy piece, and we used very little glue. We are going to start with this old piece of wood that came out of my cousin's house when she did a remodel. I've done some DIYs with it before, so it may look familiar. I'm just going to give it a quick little sand to knock off the dust, and then I'm going to use a little bit of cleaner on a rag to wipe it down. Now I'm going to take some burlap that I had in my stash, and I'm going to cut some little 4-inch squares. And we're going to use the letters F-A-L-L and make this little sign into a cute little porch leaner, or you could put a string on it and hang it if you wanted to. So I'm just going to use my little tape measure real quick, use my pencil, whatever I have to do to make these 4-inch squares. Now I know some people just tear these and rip them, and I've never had much luck doing that because mine are never really straight to begin with, and I've just never gotten the hang of that. So this is how I do it. Everybody does it the way that they do it. I use my little iron press to smooth out the wrinkles. Now I made some stencils on my Cricut. I might have made them a little bit big for my 4-inch squares, but I make it work. So there, see, it was not right. So I take it off, and then I end up flipping my stencil over and laying my burlap on the back so I can see where I'm putting it. Genius idea, right? Should have thought of that first. Then I'm just going to press it down good on my burlap and then gently remove my transfer tape from the burlap. And it takes a little bit because it doesn't really want to stick to the burlap very good. I get this transfer tape on Amazon. It's really good. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's linked in the description box below. I will double check and make sure of that for you. It's not super sticky, so it works really good. I'm going to take Weathered Wood by DIY. It's a kind of a gray brown. I absolutely love this color. I'm going to use a sponge pouncer, and I'm just going to pounce, 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 pounce. My little friend's hands. Did you see my friend's hands over there helping me? My friend is in the craft cottage with me today, and we are crafting together. You're going to see her hands a couple times in this video. And I'm just going to fill in all of these little pieces of burlap with the stencils on to spell out the word fall. I'm going to peel it off, and you can see it made it really nice and crisp. I'm so excited. So here are all of the letters done on the burlap, but I really think that they blended in too well. There wasn't enough contrast between the burlap and the wood there. So I had some fabric in my stash. If you've seen any of my fall DIYs before, you've probably seen this fabric. So I cut the squares just a tiny bit bigger than the burlap squares. I just laid the burlap on there and cut around them. And now we're going to glue those burlap letters onto the fabric. I'm going to use a little quick Tap Bond, quick and thick, and I'm going to put it mostly on the paint on the back, so it'll have something really good to adhere to. I'm also going to use a little bit of hot glue. This is my new pen hot glue by Xyron. I had two Surebonders that just quit on me at the same time, so I had to get new hot glue guns, and you're going to see them in this video. I'm going to press that down into the fabric, and then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the corners where the burlap doesn't stick to it, where it doesn't make connection. Now, I took some of that fabric and I ripped strips. I had these left over from a project, so I'm just going to use them, but I'm showing you that you just snip the end and you just rip it. And I cut this little piece of burlap, and I'm just going to make a messy bow. I'm going to do this really quickly in fast time, but it's super easy. You just layer those strips however you want to, bunch it up, pinch it up in the middle, and tie it with whatever you want to. You can tie it with a ribbon, you can tie it with a piece of twine, you could do it with a zip tie. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I'm just going to wrap it around a couple times, tie it again on the back, make a nice little knot, and then I'm going to put it on the top of that sign. And I'm going to fluff it a little bit first. And then I had purchased last week some of these little burlap flowers at Dollar Tree, and I thought they would be cute little embellishments. And so look how cute they are. And so I decided on these, and they have stickers, but I'm going to trust the stickers. So I'm hot glue it to the middle. Okay, this is my other new hot glue gun, and it has a backup, so it has storage. So when you use one glue stick, the other one drops down in there, so you can have backup in there. So we're going to glue that bow to the top, then we're just going to glue these little fall block letters with some Tite Bond and some hot glue to our wood. And I'm hoping that this holds up in the Texas heat in the fall. And if it doesn't, I'll just add some more hot glue to it, or some more whatever kind of glue I need to put on there. That's the good thing about making your DIYs. If it doesn't hold up, then you just redo it. But if I were selling this, I probably would use something a little more permanent that would stand up to the elements. I glued all 4 of those down, and then I decided I love this little look where you add the twine to the top or the bottom, and I just tied a knot, and I'm just going to twist it around a few times, tie it on the back, and this DIY is done. This was so easy and so simple, but it's so cute. You could do it in any different colors that you wanted. You could use any kind of different fabric, any kind of different wood. You could paint the wood first. The possibilities are endless. Now on to this next DIY. My friend that's crafting with me today had given me several of these signs that they were no longer going to use, and I couldn't get all of that stuff cleaned off, so I just decided we're going to paint over it. So I've taped off the frame with some masking tape. I'm going to use Farm Fresh by DIY. It's a beautiful color. I'm going to do 3 coats of this, letting each coat dry completely in between. I set it outside in our 100+ degree weather, and it dried really fast. Then I'm going to take weathered wood, and I'm going to do just a tiny bit of little dry brushing on it so that it just gives it a little dimension. You know I'm all about that dimension. I get my DIY paints from Sammy at www.unicorndustdesigns.com. She has all your DIY and saltwash paints and a lot of really cool thrift flips, and she has a really awesome website. If you'll just go over there, that link will be in the description box as well. Now, I'm just dry brushing this a little bit, like I said, because I want it to have a little bit of dimension. No rhyme or reason to what I'm doing here. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just putting some lines in there and dirtying it up a little bit. Then I made a decal on my Cricut. If you don't have a Cricut, you could use stickers. Dollar Tree has a lot of really cool stickers. I almost picked some up the other day, but sometimes I think I have to pick up several packages so I can have enough letters, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to spell, so I just decided to use my Cricut instead. So I'm just trying to get my placement here on this beautiful scripture that says, blessed coming in and blessed going out. The whole chapter of Deuteronomy 28 talks about God telling the Israelites that if they will be obedient, they will have blessings. And he talks about all the blessings that they will have. And so one of them is, you will be blessed when you come in and you will be blessed when you go out. And so I thought this would be an appropriate scripture to put on our door to remind us we're blessed when we come in and we're blessed when we go out, when we're obedient to God's word. And a lot of people will say, oh, the Old Testament, that was for back then, and Jesus came to fulfill the law. But you know what? Nowhere in the New Testament do I read where Jesus said, don't listen to the Old Testament. It's old, antiquated, and out of date, and you don't have to listen to it anymore. It is vital to understanding the New Testament. So I'm standing on all of God's word, Old and New Testament. And so I'm going to know that if I'm obedient to God's word, I'm going to be blessed coming in and blessed going out. So I hope you love this scripture as much as I do. And we're going to take some Big Top by DIY. I really love this as a top coat. It's so easy to apply. It is so satiny smooth. And I'm using this beautiful brush that I got off Sammy's website that's from DIY. And I love that I can put nice, wide, even strokes. And it's not taking me forever with a tiny little paintbrush. And these bristles are so smooth. I mean, it is better than a makeup brush. And so I'm going to do a nice, thin, even coat all over the whole thing. And I was a little nervous when it started drying because it wasn't drying evenly, but it turned out beautiful. I found the center of this at the top. I left it a little bit, I put my words a little bit lower because I knew I wanted to put a little bow or something on top. Now, I got this ribbon at Joann's when they had the spring ribbon on clearance, and I thought this did not look like spring ribbon to me. This screamed fall all over the place. So I knew I wanted to use it in my fall decor, and so I'm just going to bunch up this little ribbon and poke it behind my bow, and I'm going to do this on both sides because I'm going to make kind of a little bow swag. I don't know what you would call this, but I just decided I liked this look, and this is what we're going to do. And at first I thought I was just going to do the ribbon because, oh, there's another one of those little burlap flowers. I just love them. They're just simple and everything, but I decided it was too plain. So I'm going to add a little greenery to it. I'm going to put some of those little eucalyptus picks and some of this other greenery, which I want to say I got at Walmart maybe. Or maybe Michael's when they had it 70% off. I think I may have gotten that at Michael's when it was 70% off. Because I'm not paying full price for anything at Michael's. I'm sorry, Michael's, but your prices are too high, and I'm a cheapskate. So, there you go. So, here's the final product. This wood round Michael's clearance. I ended up paying $4.50 for this 16-inch round, and it's very unique, and I did not mind paying that for it because it feels like a really nice piece. And so I'm gonna just make a line. I didn't care if it was in the middle or not. I just made a line. I'm gonna put a little piece of masking tape across it, and I'm gonna use the weathered wood as a stain for the top half of this. I'm going to just paint it on with a sponge brush, and I'm taking a baby wipe and just smearing it all over. So it looks a little watered down. It looks like a stain, and it's beautiful. It has that gray weathered undertone. I love this color. And on the bottom, I did the edges as well. Same technique. And the bottom I painted with, the same color I painted my last project with at Farm Fresh by DIY. And I did not get that on camera for some reason. Probably too busy talking with my friend. So I made this stencil with my Cricut as well. We were all about the Cricut this day. We were making signs and just having a great old time. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get that hello to lay on my line straight and even. So I decided I'm just going to fold it up to the bottom of those letters and lay it right on there, and hopefully it's on there even. I could kind of hold it up in the light and see that it was on there even, and then I'm just going to take my little scraper and get it on there really good and peel off that tape. And then I'm going to take Beadboard by DIY. It's a beautiful white color. And I'm going to use first of all, I'm going to put some Mod Podge on it because that is what keeps my paint from bleeding. Everybody has their own stenciling technique, but I like to put a thin layer of Mod Podge on my stencils first. Then we're going to take some beadboard. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. And I'm putting it in that little dish over there because we don't want to double dip our DIY paints because they are all natural clay-based paints, and they can get bacteria in there. They can get stinky. They can get whatever. Sometimes I just do as I say, not as I do, but I use my paints up pretty quick. So I'm doing a little bit of just dabbing, using the side of my brush, using very little paint on the brush, doing 2 coats if I need to do 2 coats. It dries super fast using this method. Sometimes I swirl it around, and sometimes I just dab it. Sometimes I use the side of the brush. Just being real careful to not use a lot of paint at one time. Now I'm going to peel it off, and I like to peel it before it completely dries. That way, then none of the paint is drying to my stencil. You're going to see my friend lend a finger to help me with this project. Thanks, Charity. We had a great time crafting this day. Now I'm just going to peel all those extra little pieces out of the stencil, and I did have a few little pieces that peeled up, but it's not a problem. It's to be expected with stenciling. Sometimes if you're going for a real rustic look, you can just sand it a little bit gently across the top, and it just looks like it's supposed to be that way. This one I did not want to do that, so I just went in with this tiny little paintbrush and dabbed a little paint on, and it was fine. Now I'm going to take my DIY clear wax and give this a coat of clear wax so that it will be sealed and it will stand the weather out on the front door. I'm not going to put this on my front door. I don't have any way to put this on my front door. My front door has glass and it's tall, and the wind would totally blow it off my front door. The wind blows on my front porch like a tornado constantly. I don't know why the wind blows. The wind blows mulch out of our flower beds. We can't keep mulch in the flower beds. It's insane. Then I made another bow out of that same ribbon, and just a simple bow. I don't do fancy bows, and I don't do fancy florals. So I'm just going to poke a few of those leaves in there. And then I had these little pumpkins that I got at Dollar Tree that have the clips. And then I decided to heat up that clip with my heat gun. And then I thought it would be smart to touch it. Nope. Let's use the pliers and pull that little hot metal clip out. And then I'm going to pull that little plastic stem out and use a little piece of a real wooden stem, a wooden stick to put in there for the stem. That was in my stash from some Dollar Tree stems. And then I had gotten these I think these came from Joann's or Michael's on clearance. And I think they were, I don't remember how much they were. Maybe we can zoom in on that little tag over there and see, but they were a really good price. But I love those little white acorns. I say acorn like a Southern girl, so don't make fun of me. So I'm going to put the pumpkin on one side, the little acorns on the other. And I think this turned out so cute. I'm wondering if I put another one of those flowers in the middle of this. I'll be surprised if I didn't put a burlap flower in the middle of that one. I did cut that wire stem off that top. Oh no, I did okay, so I took some raffia and I put some masking tape on the end to keep it all together, and then poked those in the sides.
I hope that you are enjoying these DIYs. To remember that all playlists, giveaways, anything like that is null and void, because this is a compilation of past DIYs that I've done that are some of my favorites that I thought you might enjoy, because you may have missed them or you might need a refresher for some inspiration. Be sure and like this video, leave a comment below, and let's get back to crafting.
On this first project, I'm going to be using this little drill I got on Amazon, and it has all these different little bits and things that you can put on the end, and I'm going to use this tiny little sander. It kind of reminds me what they use at the nail salon. But I have these little pieces of scrap wood, tiny little pieces of scrap wood, and it has 3 different settings. I'm going to use it on high, and I'm just going to sand the edges of this, because with my orbital sander, these little pieces of wood are pretty small to be using with that. And then I'm going to take cake batter, and I'm going to give one of the little blocks a good coat. You can see that at the top, I drilled a hole in the top of it. I didn't show that on camera, I don't think. But I did drill a hole, there you go, in the top of both of those. And then I used Farm Fresh on this one. I used a little bit of, I think maybe crinoline, and dry brushed it. I didn't get that on camera. I apologize. And this is what these 2 little pumpkins looked like when I got the stems poked in those little holes on top. Next, I took 2 little pieces, and I didn't get a lot of stuff on camera in this video, and I apologize for that. But these are just 2 little pieces of wood that I painted, and I'm going to put fall stories and make a little book stack. So it's, you know, it's pretty simple, just 2 little blocks of wood, and I sanded them as well, just like I did the others on the corners to make it look rounded. And then I'm just going to write fall stories. I'm going to write it with my pencil first, and this makes the cutest little tiny book stack. And then I'm going to take my Sharpie, fine tipped Sharpie, and I'm going to go over it. Now, if you're good enough to paint with a paintbrush, you just go right ahead. But I don't trust myself to do this little fine stuff with paintbrush. Now, you can see that I'm twisting that little marker, because the paint kind of gets on the tip of that marker. And so if I just kind of twist it on the paper like that, it brings more ink forward and kind of wipes the paint off, and just works great. Now I'm going to take some sandpaper, just distress it a little bit, not too much, but I'm going to distress those letters a little bit so they don't look so stark, and then the edges of the book so that they just look a little bit worn. And then I'm going to take, oh, I guess I just dusted them off. I was thinking I was waxing them, but no, I didn't. And I actually forgot to seal these until the very end, so you'll see in a little while that I do all these projects with Big Top. I'm going to just take a little piece of twine and wrap them around the top like a book stack, and that's it for this one. It turned out so cute, so tiny and so cute. So let me know what you think about this one. It's so easy to do. You could, well, I thought I was going to tie a bow, but it was too bulky. And I mean, it looked okay, but I really think I liked it better when I just had just a little, yeah. You could put a tiny little, teeny tiny flower on there if you wanted to. Here I'm just burning off some of those little frayed edges on the twine, and there you go. Next, I took these 4 blocks. All of this is pretty much from the same piece of wood. And I'm going to take crinoline, and I'm going to paint all 4 of them, sides, front, back, all of it, until they're all painted. And there, they're all painted, front, sides, back. And then I printed out the letters F-A-L. And I'm showing that you can use some graphite paper or some carbon copy paper. This is graphite paper. To transfer these letters, you do not have to have a Cricut or any fancy tools. This is not my preferred method. I'm going to show you on the rest of the letter what I did with the rest of the letters. I just wanted to show you how easy this is with that carbon paper. This is my preferred method with this type of transferring letters, is old school like we did in elementary school, is to scribble on the back side, flip it over, and then when you trace around it, you're going to have that pencil mark left on there. So I did all the letters, F-A and 2 L's on there, and then I'm going to do 2 letters in the Summer Crush mixed with a little bit of cake batter in there. Mixed it up really good. And then I'm going to do 2 letters with that, and I'm going to do 2 letters with Farm Fresh. So I just took a paintbrush. That one was way too wide, so I got my little paintbrush out, and I just kind of put a video on and listened to some crafting, looked up every once in a while to see what they were making, and that's what I did while I painted that. And then I'm going to take this brown fine tip marker and just outline it. I'm going to take weathered wood, and I'm going to distress using a dry brush. I'm going to distress right around the edges, and then maybe a little bit on top, on the sides, mostly on the edges. So I wanted to show you for sure what it looks like with each letter, the 2 different colors. So just dirty it up a little bit to make it look old and rustic. If you don't like that look, then just leave them nice and crisp, because they would look great that way too. Then I'm going to take this fine grit sandpaper, I think it's 220, and just lightly sand it. I'm not doing a heavy sanding. Then I'm going to dust all the sand grit off, and I'm going to glue them together. I'm going to use this super glue, wood glue from Dollar Tree, with a little bit of hot glue, and going to glue them all together in the fashion that you see them laying there. I'm really loving this Summer Crush. I did mix a little of the cake batter in to give it just a little more pastel look, and that Farm Fresh. I love those colors together. And that crinoline, they just look like fall to me. I'm just going to wrap some little burlap twine around there, and there we go. Oh, I do put a little bow, just a tiny little shoestring bow right in the center. And then I trim off all those little fuzzies, and this one is done. These next little adorable pumpkins started out as those Dollar Tree wood dice. I'm going to take cake batter, and I'm going to give the first one a good coat of cake batter all over. I'm using these same colors throughout, so I used cake batter, Farm Fresh, and that Summer Crush. Now I'm going to take the weathered wood again. I'm going to do some dry brushing on these, just like I've done on all the projects. And you'll notice that I haven't shown you that I sealed my DIY paints. Now I get my DIY paints from Sammy over at unicorndustdesigns.com, and I will have her link in the description box. If you want to find anything DIY, Saltwash, or thrifted items, go and check out her website. Now I'm going to take this raffia, and I'm going to just make a little knot in it. I'm going to take a scrap piece of leaf and just basically cut out a little piece to look like a leaf, and I'm going to glue it on there. So this is how they all turned out. Okay, next I had another little tiny scrap off that piece of wood, and I painted it with cake batter. And I did this Hello Pumpkin on my Cricut, and I'm going to just use that orange color that I've gotten mixed up, and I'm going to paint not a complete solid, but I'm painting solid over the letters, and then I'm doing more than a dry brush over the rest of it. Then I'm going to peel those letters off as a kind of a reverse stencil method, and you will be able to see the Hello Pumpkin. I think this turned out really cute. And just like the other projects, I'm going to take some weathered wood and distress it. Now, I'm going to use this Big Top by DIY, and it is a top coat, and it's going to seal all these little projects so that our DIY paint is sealed in. And I forgot to do them before I embellished them, so I'm having to go back and do that now. Here's the Hello Pumpkin sign, all finished. Now I'm going to make a mini raffia wreath. This is so easy, I almost don't feel like counting it as a DIY, but I needed a little filler on my little tray. I'm going to call it a tray. You're going to see it shortly. But so I just wrapped, you see, I just wrapped some of it around, and then I'm going to tie it together at the top, and then I'm going to take that string that I tied it with, that's not string, it's the raffia I tied it with, the loose piece, and I'm just going to wrap it around the top so that that will stay nice and sturdy, and then tie it in the back. Then I'm going to make a finger bow to put on the front. Snip those little pieces off, which they probably would look cute sticking out, but I made a little finger bow with several strands of raffia, and then I'm just going to glue that on top, and that is done. And that's how it is in my little tray. You will see this at the end, at the reveal. Now, I have these calendars. Some of them are a couple years old. I just haven't used, so I use the little thumbnails on the back. And I'm going to make a couple of little things with these tiny little pieces of wood that I don't throw away. This chunk came off of one of those long signs from Dollar Tree, and I had cut this piece off because I wanted that sign to be, whatever I was using it for, to be shorter. And I just didn't throw this little square away. I painted it with Farm Fresh, and I'm going to put a good coat of Mod Podge, and I did not get on camera that I ironed on that little pumpkin piece of paper and put a little twine bow on top. I love to use the iron-on method with my Mod Podge. You let that Mod Podge dry completely, and then you use an iron with no steam, and it reactivates it, and voila, you have a beautiful finish. Now I'm going to take this one and I'm going to spray a little water on it, and then I'm going to peel the edges. This is just how I did it. It's a little thicker than a napkin or tissue paper, so I needed to really wet it down, and then I just rubbed that wet part and just peeled the paper off because I wanted the edges to look a little rough. I did that on all four edges, and then I did the iron-on Mod Podge method with this as well. I'm not sure why I didn't get this all on camera, but yeah, I didn't. Probably didn't push record or pushed record and thought I was recording when I wasn't. You know, I am a late night crafter, so maybe I was tired. I don't know. So yeah, I'm going to seal that with Big Top. And here is this cute little mini. Now this block of wood is going to take up a space that was a little bit longer and taller. And so I'm going to use that same orange paint that I mixed, Summer Crush and cake batter. And then I had a little stick in my stash. Oh wait, first I'm going to use some, is this crinoline? I believe this is crinoline. And then I'm going to use some weathered wood. Oh, I forgot to paint the back, so let's just paint it crinoline. That'll be great. Then I'm going to do the same weathered wood distressing as well, and just kind of in the places where I didn't put the crinoline. And then that little piece of wood just came off of a branch out of my yard, and I'm just going to glue it to the top, tippy top Oh, look, I got smart. I sealed this first. Okay, so now I'm going to glue this little piece of a twig to the top, and then I'm going to wrap some twine around that a couple of times and then tie it in a knot. And then I decided that I wanted to leave the strings a little long and have some tendrils. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I did with some raffia recently that worked really good. And so I wondered if it would work with the burlap twine ribbon. This is twine. So I had that wet, and then I just slipped that out, and it just made it curly. So I did both of those like that, and I thought that was just an cute little added touch to that. So there, that is complete. Now, I decided I needed a beaded garland. I love my garlands and my banners, and so I just took some very small little beads that I had in my stash, put a piece of tape around the end of my twine, and fed and threaded on there as many beads as I wanted. Now, I had this little wood round in my stash that I had last year cut a branch off one of my trees, and I just made a whole bunch of these little wood slices. So they've come in handy from time to time for different projects. I'm just going to paint a simple little pumpkin on the end of this for the end of this beaded garland. So pumpkins are pretty easy to paint because they're not perfect. Then I'm going to take that weathered wood, make a stem, give it a little dimension, tie it on the end of this beaded garland. Get it tied on there. Once I get it all tied on there, then I cut off that extra little piece. And then we're going to work on the other end. The other end, I made a tassel out of some twine for that end and attached it. Now, if you need a tutorial on how to make a tassel, I have a slowed down version of how to make a twine tassel. So I can link that video in the description box below. So I just decided how long I wanted to make it. It doesn't need to be long. This is a very tiny little small beaded garland for our tiered tray. And there it is with my little mini hay bales. Okay, now for the mini tiered tray, I'm going to use that 4x4 glass picture frame and this 8x10 picture frame from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take all the guts out of both of them and all the glass. We're not going to use any glass. I'm actually going to just go ahead and use this piece of cardboard that was in the 8x10, and the 4x4, I'm going to cut a piece of cardboard the right size to slide in that little hole that was there that the glass was slid in, because this was one that had two pieces of glass that you could put like a plant or something, you know, in between, botanicals or something, or you could put a picture in there in between them so it looks more like a floating frame. So I have this cardboard. This came out of those calendars, actually. You know, have that little piece of cardboard that's in there. I don't ever throw that away. Okay, so now I'm going to take these craft sticks. These are not the extra large ones. These are like just a size up from the popsicle sticks. And I have this little mini miter saw that I love. So it has where you turn it on. You have to push that other red button before the handle will go down. So I'm going to cut about 4 or 5 of these at a time. And then I'm going to lay them out on this in kind of a little pattern like you would if you were laying wood floor planks. So I'll cut those, and then I will glue it all down with the Tite Bond Quick and Thick glue. I'm going to start at the bottom so that I can get them all straight. And then I'm going to just work my way with these up the top, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to cut the pieces. One thing I did once I got these all glued down, and I used a piece of the stick and I measured them to see how much I needed to cut, and then I numbered where they needed to go when I went to go glue them back in. Now this one I didn't bricklay or lay it, whatever. I just put the craft sticks in there straight. Now I'm going to give both of these a good coat of white beadboard by DIY, and I want coverage, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I wanted to cover up that hole, that little slit, so I just decided to put one of these craft sticks over it, and one wasn't long enough, so I cut another little piece. So I just pieced that together and paint it. And if that bothers you, then just put it on the back side. If it bothers you that it doesn't look the same as all the rest. And so I'm going to paint the frame and the inside on both of these, and just give it just one coat. I think this little black frame, I did the frame part twice, but this one I did one coat because I didn't care if you could see that wood through a little bit, because at the end we're gonna, guess what, we're gonna dry brush it a little bit with weathered wood. Why not? We've done every other project that way in this video. Now I have these spindles from an old chair from my spindle collection, and I sanded it down to give it this rustic look, and I love the way it looks. I'm going to take some clear wax by DIY, and the brush that I'm using was the brush that I used with my white wax, not my clear wax. So you can see that it's giving it a little bit of white. So I decided I didn't mind that in the crevices and the low points, but I went ahead and took the clear wax and gave it a coat of clear wax to lighten that white up a little bit, but it still shows in the crevices a little, and I like that look. I'm going to take the weathered wood. We're going to give both of these frames some dry brushing, just kind of like I did on the other projects, mostly on the edges, to give it just some dimension. And with these little wood planks on there, I think it kind of lends to the farmhouse look, and so I wanted it to look a little worn and weathered, so I just went across this where I think it would look dirty. And again, if you don't like that look, then just don't do it and leave it nice and white and crisp, and that will be great too. Then I'm going to seal it all with clear wax by DIY. And since this already was white, it didn't matter if there was white wax in this brush already. So I just used the brush because it's a bigger project. Now I'm going to use the Titebond Quick and Thick glue plus some hot glue to make the pedestal for our tiered tray. I don't know if I ever said I was making a tiered tray. We're going to make a mini tiered tray. This is a small tiered tray for our smalls, because these are very miniature minis. So same thing for the top part, a little bit of hot glue and some of this Quick and Thick, and both the hot glue is going to set up really fast. The Quick and Thick sets up pretty fast too. So there we go. This is what it looks like all finished. I really love how it turned out. You'll have to let me know what you think, if you would think maybe you would want to make one. And here it is with all the little minis on it. I think this is so cute for fall. And then I'm going to show you my original idea for this was this cutlery tray. So it is a mini tray display, but it was a cutlery tray I picked up on clearance at Ross last year for just a few dollars, and I thought it really looks more like a shadow box.
I hope you got some inspiration to get up and create some things, some tiny little things to make for your tier tray out of some scraps that you have laying around, something out of your stash. But most of all, remember to be still. Okay, I have these little pieces of wood from that swing set. If you've watched my channel at all, you know that we had this old swing set that a storm blew down, and we saved it. And I've been using that scrap wood in a lot of DIYs. So I have these little pieces, and I just painted this one white, and I'm going to paint the back of it, just a messy coat. And then it's all painted, it's all dry. Now I'm going to cover the front of it. I did not need to cover the entire front of it with Mod Podge, but I did, just so that it all looks the same and, you know, even. So I did a good thick coat of it all across the front of it. And then while that's drying, I'm going to separate, and it separated very easily. This was a Dollar Tree napkin. And I guess the Mod Podge is already dry, or I wouldn't be laying that napkin on it. But anyway, I'm just, for placement, I'm trying to see where I need to cut this napkin. So I'm going to cut it right in half. And I separated the ply. You know, I only want the front ply, the one ply that the print is on. And so I'm going to cut off what I don't need. And I'm going to cut around this. Now, there's another method you can use. And you can take a little paintbrush and just use water and paint around it where you want to cut. And you can kind of rip it. But this worked just fine for me. Now I'm going to round these edges because the edge of my boards are round on the corners. Now if I were going to do it this way and they were square, I would have left them square. But I'm just a little extra like that, and I wanted it to fit on there nicely. And look how nice that fits on there. Now that Mod Podge is dry, and I'm just going to take my little iron with a piece of parchment paper and iron that napkin down on that Mod Podge. Now I did this without the parchment paper, thinking it was going to be okay, and it was, but it almost wasn't, if you know what I mean. So always use your parchment paper. Now I cut this little Harvest Blessings decal out with my Cricut, and then I decided before I did that I probably should dry brush a little bit of this chocolate sprinkle paint, acrylic paint by probably Apple Barrel. Anyway, you can use any kind of color you want, and as little or as much as you want. And I just would put it on there, and it was a little bit slick from the Mod Podge, so I could just kind of rub it a little bit. And I just did it until it looked like I wanted it to. And then now I'm going to put this decal on there, and it went on really easy. And this was a, what do you call this? Rose gold. That's what it's called. And I thought it just kind of looked like fall and looked like it matched this napkin pretty good. So and I was a little bit afraid with the texture of this wood that it might not stick on there very good, but it went on there like a charm. Look at that. I think this turned out so pretty. I really like this. So I just burnish it in there in all those little creases of that wood grain with my fingers. And then I just got some of this twine that I get at Walmart. It's a really good deal for what you get on this roll. And it's a little thicker than what you can get at Dollar Tree. And I'm just measuring out how long I want my hanger. And I put a knot in each end. And then I'm just going to staple it to the back because this is thicker on one end than the other. I don't even know what part of the swing set or fort. It was kind of one of those swing sets that had kind of a fort in the middle where they could climb up and then they could slide down, and it had swings, and it was a really fun little swing set while it lasted. But we bought it off Facebook Marketplace and got a really good deal on it because some people were moving and didn't have room to take it with them, and we got it really cheap because they had it for a while, and then we had it for several years, and it, you know, it served its purpose. And then the storm, you know, where we moved out here in the country, the wind blows like crazy, and if it rains and the wind is blowing, you better have everything bolted down because it's gonna blow over. Anyway, so here's the final result, and I think it turned out adorable. Okay, here's our next fall DIY. If you remember my haul from when I was in Kentucky, I got all these wood dice. So let's see what we can do with them. So I'm going to use 2 packages, and I'm going to use these stickers that I found. I finally found some fall stickers. I haven't found the fall rub-ons, but I found some fall stickers at Dollar Tree. So I mixed up this color paint. I don't have any alabaster. If I had alabaster, I probably would use Alabaster by Folk Art. But I didn't have any, so I just mixed a little bit of some tan in with my white. And I gave these both, and this was Fawn. I used Fawn by Folk Art for those. And I just gave them one coat. And now I'm going to use the dark wax and the white wax by DIY. And I'm going to put the white wax on these I did with Fawn. And I love how this turned out. Now I did this, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, okay, I'm going to show you in just a little bit what I did. Okay, the dark wax was a little different than what I expected, but I loved it. I should have just kind of left it like that, but I did take the clear wax and try to seal it a little more or something. I don't know. And it kind of acted as an eraser and took a little bit of it off and smeared it and blended it, which I didn't really want it to blend it because I really wanted them to still have that white look to them. But I like how they turned out after all. They all turned out fine. So I love them. I'm telling you, I love the wax. That was my first time to use the clear and the dark. I just got them, and I buy them from Upcycle by Bree, and I will leave a link to her website in the description box below. Now I'm going to just pick which stickers I think will fit on there, and I'm testing the stickiness, and they are not sticky enough. So I'm going to use my Aleene's tacky glue, and just, yeah, I got a lot on there, so I'm trying to rub some of it off with my finger, and that's going to hold it really nicely. And then I'm just going to pick which one of these stickers I want on there next. And so these are the stickers that I chose to put on these three. And then I'm going to make some teeny tiny little shoestring bows with this little skinny twine that I get in the automotive section at Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to glue them right to the tops like they're at the, kind of like they're on the top of the pumpkins. And I'm just going to put a teeny tiny little drop of hot glue, and I'm going to use my tweezers to put it on there because I love to use my tweezers. And look how cute they are, side by side or stack them up. Now on these I used the smaller ones, and I ended up cutting some of those stickers up to make them fit. If you have some of those rub-ons from Dollar Tree, that would be great. You could cut something out on your Cricut to put on them. You could draw something free-handed. You could paint something on. But I had these adorable little stickers, and I thought, why not use them? So now I'm just going to do this little method that we do a lot, where we just wrap the twine around. And because they're not square on the sides, on the corners, I was having a little bit of trouble keeping the twine on there really good. So I did hot glue it around the edges, and then I did all three of them. And I just chose to stack mine one on top of the other. And look how cute they would be. So cute on a tier tray. I just think they're super cute. Okay, next. I got this little thing, this little decor piece at Dollar Tree. And I thought it was so cute. I actually picked up 2 of them. So now I'm going to wet this paper towel with my spray bottle. And I made a big, huge mess with that spray bottle in this water. So let me grab another dry paper towel to put under here. And I'm just going to let this soak. I just put it on there and let it soak and peeled that off. Now, I didn't even care that I could, you can see that I didn't peel all that paper off. I just wanted to get that slick part off. And now I got some scrapbook paper, and I'm just going to cut it the shape of the decor piece. And then I know that I'm going to stick it inside, so the edges are going to have to be a little bit shorter so it's going to fit down in there. So I decided to cut that a little off just a little bit and make sure that it's going to fit, and it looks like it's going to fit just fine. Now, I need to cut just a little bit more. Oh, nope, I decided that's going to work. Okay, so I'm just, the bottom part down there, I'm just going to use my glue stick. And then I'm going to stick it down in there, and then I'm going to use my little Cricut scraper tool to, well, as soon as I get it in there straight, Oh, look at that little moth over to the left. That little guy gave me some fits. There, I'm fighting with it. Get out of there. Okay, then I just use my little spatula, rubbing that down to make that glue stick, that paper stick. And then, oh, I forgot to tell you, and I didn't record a lot of stuff in this video. I'm so sorry. Not on this whole video, just with this piece. I put some Mod Podge on there, just like I did on the last one. And look how, I mean, there are no wrinkles, no bubbles. This is the greatest method ever. And then I'm just going to take this X-Acto knife and trim off the excess. It works great. You can use your sanding block or a nail file and, you know, sand it off, but that worked great for me. And then I'm just taking a little bit of brown paint, and I'm going to paint the edges of this just so it looks finished. And then I'm going to pull that paint down onto that paper a little bit so it looks, you know, a little bit old and worn. And then I have this little give thanks little wood cutout that I got at Dollar Tree in a pack. There were several words in a pack, and I'm using this what is that color? Oh my gosh, Canyon Sunset. I love it. It's been my favorite orange for fall. And I'm just using some white wax, and then I'm using a little bit of my chocolate sprinkles, dry brushing, just getting the color I want it to be. And then I went back over it with some more white. And then I'm going to just put a few little spots of glue on there and glue it down on there. On there. I'm just saying on there a lot tonight. Now I'm going to take those beads that I saved, and I'm going to paint this one, putting it on the end of a paint brush so it doesn't roll around, and I'm just going to make it match that. I did do 2 coats and dried it with my heat gun, and then I'm just going to pop it off of there. Now I didn't like how shiny that was, and I did not show you how I did that, but I just took elephant and silver lining, and I used my makeup sponge, and I just dabbed until I got the color that I wanted. And then I'm taking that truffle by Waverly and sponging a little on the edges so it looks a little rusty. But for the silver part, I just did that silver lining and elephant. A light gray and a dark gray. I just sponged it with that sponge, pounced it. And then I did that rusty color. Now I'm just going to put these beads on some twine and stick it back through there like it was in the beginning, because that's cute as a little hanger. And I'm just going to tie a knot in the end, cut off the excess, and voila. And then I got in my scrapbook paper and found some. You can use whatever color you like. And I'm going to put blank ones in there. And I'm going to put the things that we give thanks for. Jesus, number 1. Jesus died on the cross for us so that we can have eternal life and heaven with him. So most thankful for that. So thankful for my family. And I'm very thankful for my health. At my age, that is something very much to be thankful for. If you have good health, any age, but especially at my age. Then I'm going to put some blank ones in there because I plan to sell this, so whoever gets it can put whatever they're thankful for. So let me know what you think about this one. It's a little different than something I've ever done before, but I really like it. Okay, ready for those big blocks? Pick these up at the thrift store. They are 6 inches by 6 inches. They're hollow inside, so they're lightweight. And I am so excited to show you what I did with these. Okay, so I gave all sides of it 2 coats of white chalk paint. I'm not going to show you all of the painting, but I did. I don't know if I even did 2 coats. I think I did 2 coats, maybe 1 or 2. And then I cut these stencils out on my Cricut. You could use, I don't know if you're going to find stickers that big, but you could use that method where you print out your letter and then sketch on the back of it and do it. Use graphite paper, carbon paper, graphite paper, any of those methods. Freehand-it if you're good at that. But I wanted to do it with the stencil. So I did the letters F-A-L-L. And now I'm going to use this Mod Podge so that it doesn't bleed, because this method works absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to just put a thin coat on there, and it's going to dry super fast. By the time I finish the L, the F will be dry. And so, don't know why I'm starting with the L, or maybe that's just what I edited out to show you. but I'm using this little pouncer. Probably got this I think I got this in a big pack at Michael's. It was like a value pack of sponges and what have you. I had a gift card, and so that's what I bought. Oh, I'm going to show you the A too. This is the second coat. I think I did 2 coats. So I think the L was the first coat. This is the second coat. Yes, because here's the peel and reveal. We cross our fingers. We hope for the best. Say a little prayer and peel. But the thing is, if you have a little boo-boo on this, you can always go back with your white and clean it up. But fortunately, with the Mod Podge, I didn't have any issues. I love that method. Okay, so let's get that little piece out in the middle of the A. This is the tricky part, because then, get paint on the tweezers and then it gets in the middle. There we go. Got it. Oh, look how crisp and beautiful. Yay. Okay, so we're going to let them all dry, and then I'm going to take, this looks like antique. Yes, this is the Antique Wax by Waverly, and I'm just dry brushing it. And I'm just going to do it until I get it where I like it. Now, I'm going to do this 2-sided. So I don't want to do this all over all the sides. So I'm just doing it what I think you'll see when you're looking at the fall letters and the bottom. So I'm just doing about halfway back from the F. I hope that makes sense. And you can probably see what I'm doing. And it may sound like it's not going to look good, but it will, because all the boxes are going to be sitting on top of each other. Then I took my 220 sanding block, 220 grit sanding block, and just sanded it a little bit. It didn't rough it up or distress it. It just smoothed it out. And look at the difference. How pretty that is. If you like it stark and clean, leave it that way. But here's the finished product of our fall with my little scarecrow. And I love it. Okay, here's the bonus DIY. Gearing up for Christmas. So this is 2-sided. So you can have fall. We're going to flip it over on the opposite side. And we're going to do the opposite of a stencil. Okay? So I know there's probably a term for this, but I don't know it. So if you do, leave it in the comments below. I'm sure somebody knows what it's called. So I'm going to put the snowflake on and press it down good. And now there's no way for me to put my Mod Podge on to keep any bleedage. Is that even a word? To keep it from bleeding. So we're just going to be okay if it bleeds a little bit, because I intend to distress this a little bit. So it'll be fine. So I'm going to press it down as good as I can. And then I thought I was going to use this Christmas red by Folk Art, but it was very pink. So I'm going to mix this bright red by Apple Barrel with it, and it's going to be just fine. And so I'm going to give it 2 coats. I'm going to do a thin coat, and I'm trying to be pretty careful, and I'm only doing it on the front. And it was very easy because the edges were not rounded, but they weren't even really sharp. It was really easy to just go to the edge with this. So I'm not going to show you all of that either. I'm showing you that on the opposite side of that A, I'm going to put Let It Snow. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Okay, that was bad. I shouldn't have sang. Okay, then I'm going to take this little teeny tiny dauber, and we're going to just put some little polka dots. We're not going to call these red snowballs, okay? I don't know. I did red on the other, and I thought it would just be cute to make it coordinate. So it's just red polka dots. All right, here's the peel and reveal. Now, this is not crisp, but I'm okay with it. I did fix that little red blob on there. I did not show you that I fixed it. I just took a little white on a little paintbrush and fixed it. But now I'm taking, I have no idea what grit this was, but I gave it a pretty hard sand. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it or not, but it distressed it enough that it didn't really matter if that bleeding showed through. It kind of made it look like it was supposed to look like that. So I absolutely love that it looks like that.
My first DIY was inspired by Emily over at Farm Charm Chic, and she does some beautiful, amazing farmhouse decor and a lot of other things, and she's just a beautiful person. So her pumpkin was much larger than mine, and I decided I was going to put this on a napkin ring, and I haven't yet, but I'm going to, and so I'm just going to make some small ones. So I took this dowel rod that I had in my stash, and I'm just wrapping this Dollar Tree twine around it several times, well, quite a few times, you can see, and I just keep wrapping it, and it's kind of curling, so I just keep smoothing it out. Now, I'm going to take some masking tape. She didn't do this. She wrapped it around her hand because she made hers larger, but I'm just going to wrap it around this stick and then trim that off. Now I'm going to take another little piece of twine after I push that all the way out to the end. Now you can do this however you want to. This just worked for me. And then I'm going to hold it down on the end of that so I can push that little piece of twine all the way through while those loops stay on my finger. Then I'm going to pull my finger out, and then I have that twine to tie it up. She used some little floral wire to secure hers, but like I said, hers is quite a bit larger than mine. And then I'm just going to trim that off, take the tape off, make sure all the little loops are, like when I pulled that tape, it loosened that up a little bit. I'm going to make sure they're all where they need to be and trim it off. Now I'm going to make 4 of these, and you can make it however full or however many you need to make it, however full you want it. So this worked for me. So I'm going to take another little piece of twine, and I'm going to run it through the center of all 4 of those pieces that I made, those little sections that I made. I tried to make longer sections, but it gets more difficult to tie them together. You could hot glue them together if you wanted, but this really worked great. I just tied that in a knot, and voila, there you go. And then I took a tiny little dowel rod. Well, I fluffed it up and got them all situated because some of them got a little twisted. And then those little sticks that are on the end of your sponge paint, that you paint with those sponge paint brushes, I saved those. So most likely that may be what that came from, but regardless, I just saved it. So then I took my green paint marker, and I thought I was just gonna paint this with my little green paint marker, and because I started looking at pumpkin stems, and they really are kind of a greenish brown. Well, I didn't like the green at all, and it wasn't painting it good, so because it has kind of a little slick coat on it. So then I just took my antique wax from Waverly and went over it, and it turned out perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for, something along those lines. So I stuck it right down in the middle. It fit perfect. Then I picked up a little leaf out of my scraps because we don't throw anything away, and sometimes you need just that tiniest little leaf to go on something as an embellishment, and that's all there is. Super simple, super easy. Thank you, Emily, for making this pumpkin that I could mimic. This next DIY, I was inspired by Lisa Marie at Crafting My Best Life with Lisa Marie. The next 2 DIYs, and so I loved that book pages on there. So I'm using a totally different pumpkin. It's a totally different look, but I was inspired by the pages. So I'm taking the antique wax, and I'm just putting a thin coat on the background part of this, and then I'm going to use some Mod Podge, and I'm putting a pretty thick layer of Mod Podge on the raised parts of this pumpkin. Now I got this little thin wooden pumpkin at Dollar Tree. Now it's dry. My Mod Podge is completely dry, and I'm just ripping up these little pages of an old book that was tattered and worn, and so I'm going to try to place them on here the best I can and make it have them overlap a little bit, but I don't want them to overlap too much, but I do want them to kind of overlap a little bit. So it does take a little bit of time to place them and get them placed how you want them, and I wasn't sure how easy it would be to remove the excess that is hanging over the edge, but it was not hard at all. So I took a little extra time for that wasn't necessary. So I'm just going to now take a piece of parchment paper, lay it on top of my pages, and use my little heat press. You could use an iron, a really hot iron, and it is going to reactivate that glue and cause my pages to stick very, very nicely. I love to use this technique with Mod Podge. I struggled on the struggle bus for years with the rippling and the crinkling that Mod Podge does. So here I'm just taking my X-Acto knife and a little bit of my sanding block around the edges to make them crisp, and it was easy peasy. And now I'm just gonna do it, use my sanding block a little bit around the edges of the wood as well. Now I'm gonna give the top of my pages a little Mod Podge seal. You could use a polyacrylic over the whole entire thing if you wanted to. I just chose to seal down my pages. I'm just going to use this for indoor use. And then I took some raffia. This was actually those raffia bows that I peeled off of this. You see where that glue is, that I peeled a little raffia bow off. And I've done several projects with these in the past and saved the bows. And I just undid the bows and made this little raffia, whatever you want to call this, for my background. Then I had gotten these cotton bowls at, pretty sure these came from Dollar Tree. There were several in a package. So I'm going to use one of them as the center of my little, maybe you want to call this a little, I don't know what you want to call this, my little florals, my little swag. I was thinking I was going to make a little swag out of it and then just put it all together. But, you know, I get on the struggle bus when it comes to florals, but in the end they look fine. I just struggle, you know, in the middle part. So I put the cotton in the middle. I put those little mini pomegranates on each side, and then I had those little, you can see up in the upper right and the upper left, those little sprigs of wheat that came from Dollar Tree as well. They were on a long stem, and I had pulled a bunch of them off for a different project. So I'm just gonna put a little glue in there, stick them in the sides, and that's that for this project. I put a hanger on top. I did put a little hanger through that hole on top to hang it by. And I love the way this turned out. This one was Lisa Marie's, and she used some animal print, and I thought that was amazing. So I did Silver Lining by Waverly as my background on this pumpkin, and I'm just cutting up a makeup sponge, and I'm using some Elephant by Waverly with this makeup sponge, and I'm just going to pounce it all over. And as I'm pouncing it all over, I'm going to go back and forth with the Silver Lining, and then I have some metallic, I believe it's by Folk Art as well. You can see it over there on the right. I do the Elephant and the Silver Lining. I just keep pouncing and pouncing, and then I use a little bit of that metallic in there too. Now, I couldn't get up close to those edges with the makeup sponge, so I just kind of dry brushed a little bit of that Elephant up close. You can kind of see. I'm using this old worn out stiff brush to dry brush that with. It's really hard to do a good dry brush with a regular paintbrush. But you can see that I'm just pouncing. I'm using both colors intermittently. And then I do use that silver metallic in there a little bit. That silver metallic is a little bit translucent, but it does help with that look. Okay, I'm doing the same process that I did with the other one with the Mod Podge, and I'm letting it dry. Now, I'm just going to take a piece of regular printer paper, and I'm laying it on top of there, and I'm pressing down around those raised areas, and you can see that it's making an impression in my paper. So I'm just going to cut around those impressions to get myself a template, because I'm going to cut fabric to put on top of those. So here are my templates, and here is my fabric that I cut out using the template. I didn't figure you needed to see all that. You just lay it down, and I used a Sharpie to trace around it and then cut them out. Same process I did on the last one. I'm now using my iron to reactivate that Mod Podge, and it got this fabric to adhere beautifully. This is a cotton fabric. I didn't have any. I went to Joann's to look for some. They didn't have any, and my sister had it in her stash. My sister has her own little fabric shop. That's her crafting. So yeah, I can always count on her to have whatever kind of fabric that I might need. So now I just took this buffalo check ribbon that I have had for several years, and it's on a big old huge spool, and I bought that I think Hobby Lobby on clearance, on half price or something. I don't know. Anyway, now I'm going to make a tassel. That black ribbon came off of, you know, washcloths or bath towels or a blanket or something, you know, that have those ribbons wrapped around them. Save those, people. They're good. Okay, so now I'm trying to make a tassel. So I just wrapped it around there. You can just see what I'm doing. I don't even have to explain it to you. You're smart people. You can figure it out. So I just am going to hook it into my bow. So the tassel is going to be hanging from the middle of my bow. But I got my knot, that a little bit too tight. So I'm going to loosen it up so I can get this little string behind it. Come on, Kendra, you can do it. There you go. And so I'm just going to tie that in a little knot. This is the top of my tassel. Hang with me. Hang with me. It's going to be really cute in the end. Okay. And then I just cut all those ends off. Okay. Now we're going to make the top of that little tassel. So just a little bit ways down, I'm going to tie it, wrap it all the way around, and then tie a knot on the back side to hold that in place. So that's that little, part at the top that makes it look like a tassel. Easy peasy. Now, get all the ribbons out of the way. I could have just cut that off. No, I don't know if I need that or not. So anyway, I always do everything the difficult way. Okay, trim off all the little excess pieces. Turn it around. This is going to be the front side. Go ahead and tie that knot back like I had it. There we go. Cut those pieces off. Now that's just a given, right? Or you can leave them on there if you want it to be a little bit more messy. Okay, so now we've got this loop, and I'm going to mess with it for a while. Okay, we're going to cut those bottom loops to make our tassel. Then I'm just going to make sure that they are all even. See, there's some, it just needs a haircut, which I'm really good at because that's what I do for my day job. Okay, so there we go. Look how cute that little bow with the tassel turned out. Then I decided I needed this little Hello Fall. I wanted to paint it black or white, hoping it would pop off that fabric. And I really liked this black. It's by DIY. It didn't pop very good, so I did some white wax. Oh, not sure why I showed you the picture first. Okay, first I did a clear wax. Not sure how that picture got in there, but anyway, that's how it ends up looking. So I did some clear wax on it, and then I laid it on there, and I decided that it just didn't pop enough. You know, it just didn't. There you go. See? Well, that was quick. So I just took the white wax and on a dry brush, I played with it till I figured out how much I needed on there, and then I just kind of outlined it. Just wisped it and feathered it in there. Oh, that's not white wax. That's white chalk paint. I apologize for that. The white chalk paint. The white wax tends to blend into the paint a little bit more, and it will actually change the color of the black paint. And I really wanted the black to stay black. And if I used the white wax, it would have made the black a little bit more subdued. And I really wanted that black to be black. Okay, so there we go. See how much better that looks? Which I did the other so fast, you really probably couldn't even see. Then I decided in the middle of that bow, it needed another little piece of fabric on top to cover up all that mess. So that's what I did. Fold it, fold it, fold it. Cut my little dovetails and pinch it up. Put a little piece of ribbon around the middle and stick it in there. Then I put a little hanger on top with that same ribbon that's, we can make it all matchy-matchy because I grew up in the 70s where we did everything matchy-matchy. Okay, glue the Hello Fall on. And it's a done DIY, and I think it turned out great. Thank you, Lisa Marie, for the inspiration. Let me know what you think about this leopard for fall. Okay, let's do this DIY. This one was inspired by the Crafting Cousins, Trish and Kay. They are amazing. Check out their channel. Every channel will be listed in the description box below. So I have these wire wreath forms. I got it at Dollar Tree, so I'm just going to trace it around this burlap. This is a double piece of burlap. I folded it over. You can kind of see the fold down there at the bottom. I folded it over, so I only have to cut once, and they'll both be exactly the same size. So I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to cut. I was like, I think I sped this up. I didn't want you to have to watch me cut this whole thing, but I wanted you to see how easy it is to just cut that burlap around the lines. And then I'm going to use some hot glue and my little silicone spatula, and I'm going to hot glue all the way around the edges. It's kind of like as if we were sewing that. Okay, so we're going to hot glue all around the edges. I was trying to decide where I wanted to leave my opening, and I'm going to leave my opening to stuff it at the top because I'm also going to put a stem up there, so I just thought that made more sense, and it really did. Okay, here's a little hack if you don't know it. If you're going to put your glue stick in, heat it up a little bit and it'll stick to the next one. And yeah, I'm crafting at night, so the bugs are attracted to my light. So I am in the country and my craft cottage is outside. Of course it's outside. Oh boy. Okay, so here we go. All the way around, just tack it down really good with some hot glue. And you know, burlap responds to hot glue really good. Just make sure your edges are together, even. Well, if they're not, you can always go back and trim them. And I did think afterwards it would have been cute to hot glue down about 1/4 of an inch and then fray it a little bit. That would be a cute look too. So I left a little opening at the top. I didn't really show that very good, but I did leave an opening at the top. Now I'm using this, my favorite orange for fall, and it is Tuscan Sunset, I believe it's called. Something, Canyon Sunset. And you can do it as heavy or as light as you want a coat on there. I wanted it pretty thick. And then I'm going to take, this is Chocolate Sprinkle by somebody, and it's a dark brown paint anyway. And I'm just going to make those lines in the pumpkin so that it looks like a pumpkin and not just a big orange blob. So I left my orange paint in my paintbrush over there on the side because I tend to kind of get heavy-handed sometimes, and then you can always just go back and use excuse me, the other paintbrush kind of as an eraser. So you'll see that I kind of do squeeze a little bit more of my orange paint out there, and I go back around those brown lines to kind of soften it or make them not so wide, or you know, yeah, do that. So that's a good little trick if you don't know it. Now I had this branch that I used for another project. Nope, we're going to stuff it first. Let's stuff it. But I do have that branch. This came out of an old pillow that I had on my bed, and I had washed it so many times it just lost its oomph. So I saved it because I thought, oh, I could probably use that stuffing for something that didn't really matter. So this was one of those things. Doesn't really matter what the stuffing's like inside here. So I stuff it with that, and then here's that branch that I cut in half. It was like a little branch, and I cut it in half to use on another project. So this is the other half. So this was a really fun little thing to do. So I'm just going to stuff it in that hole and close it all up. And I'm going to put a little hanger on the back of this because that little branch is a little bit heavy. So I'm going to use it as kind of the hanger. So here's some raffia. And I'm just cutting them kind of all the same length-ish, and as much as I wanted. And I'm going to wrap it around a couple times and then tie it in a knot. I think I actually didn't tie it in a whole knot. I just tied it like that right there. And then I trimmed it up a little bit. And now, I love this little thing. I found one when we were out of town. Dollar Tree had these little monogram beaded something or others. But the monogram I couldn't paint over. You would need to fill that in if you were going to paint over it. But I painted over the back instead with this beautiful color that I'm loving for fall as well. And I'm pretty sure I did just one coat. Now I'm going to take some white chalk paint on a skinny paintbrush and just randomly make some little lines. If you wanted to make it look plaid, you could make some of those lines a little wider than others. But I just was trying to make some little, you know, I don't know what I was trying to do. Some things just come in my head and it just happens like that. So it doesn't really look plaid, but I just wanted something different there. Did I show you that I put polka dots on the pumpkin? I don't think I even showed you that part. I used a little round dauber that I got at Dollar Tree. I totally didn't have put that footage in here, and just made white polka dots on the pumpkin. I think that was my favorite part of this. The look of this pumpkin was the whimsy of it. So that's the reason that I put those lines on that leaf as well, is because I liked the whimsy of it. So now I just tied a little knot above the beads so that they would kind of stay in place. and then I'm just going to tie it around the top of that stem, of the bottom of the stem, and let it hang. I'm trying to see how, you know, long I want it to hang. But yeah, I did not show you that I put those polka dots on. Silly me. But anyway, I did. I used one of those sponge daubers and put polka dots with white chalk paint. And then so I'm just gonna glue this on top of there, and I think this turned out so cute. You'll have to let me know what you think about it. This first DIY is so simple and so gorgeous. So I took this branch and cut it in half. It was just a branch out off of a tree in my yard. I cut it down, cut it in half. I have this charger from Dollar Tree and some succulents I had in my stash. You can get them at Dollar Tree, and some Spanish moss. I'm going to be using some E6000 as well as some hot glue. So let's get started assembling this. It's so easy, I promise. So I'm going to pick which part of this I want to use, which one I think is going to look better, which direction I want it, and then I'm going to use some hot glue and some E6000 to attach this. The E6000 is going to be a stronger hold, but I'm going to need the hot glue on there to give it that quick hold until the E6000 dries. And then I'm just going to start putting the succulents on however I think they're going to look good. Going to pinch that little piece off so that this will lay flatter on there. And then I'm going to just put them on there, put however you like. I believe that maybe one of my sisters sent me this as an inspiration piece. They are always sending me pictures saying, oh, this is cute. Can you make this? And, you know, of course, I always think I can make everything. So, but I knew this would be really easy, and it was so simple. So here I'm just putting a little extra E6000 under there just to hold those leaves down. It didn't feel very sturdy or very secure. So now I'm just taking some other little pieces in the succulent pack that I got. I ordered these succulents off Amazon. It was a big package of them, and it was very affordable, so I just use those. And then I'm gonna just poke a bunch of Spanish moss in where I want to. I put a little hot glue back in there just to hold it in place, and that is it. That is all it takes to make this gorgeous fall DIY. And I think it is just absolutely gorgeous. Let me know what you think about this one. Next fall DIY. I got these at Dollar Tree. I just pulled that leaf off, saving it for another DIY. Pull off the shell. I had done this previously. I forgot to turn the camera on, so I'm just showing you that I did that. And then I'm going to put some scrapbook paper on that later. But first, I'm going to use a little piece of masking tape on the back side of this, on the back side of those holes, so that when I put my little filler, I'm using some Dollar Tree, I think it's called spackling. I'm going to put that in. That masking tape on the back is going to keep it from going all the way through that hole. Now I'm just marking my scrapbook paper to fit inside that frame. Now I'm going to take my paper cutter and cut it. If you don't have a paper cutter, you can just draw some lines and cut it. I'm going to just use a regular old glue stick and glue it down. And this works great. And sometimes I get my little squeegee and I press it out with that little red squeegee up there in the corner. And that helps it to get the glue spread out everywhere. Now I'm just kind of sanding that down a little bit, wiping off all the sand, grit to make it nice and smooth so we can paint it. Now you choose whatever color paint you want. I wanted this to be like a fall leaf, like kind of a little bit of a dark leaf, and I'm gonna put some words on it. So I chose this color Fawn by Waverly, and I gave it one good coat all over. I used my paintbrush sort of in the direction that I felt like it would give it some texture. I don't know if that really mattered or not, but I felt like it did. And then I didn't have the camera rolling when I did the colors on there, but these are the colors that I used, sand and terracotta, and I just kind of dry brushed on there to make it look like a leaf. Then of course I'm going to grab my little scrap of t-shirt, and I'm going to rub it on there because I love the finish that it gives before I'm going to put a decal on. Then I am going to use a little bit lighter color and dry brush a little bit lighter. I'm just mixing a little bit of that. I'm thinking that, I don't even know what color that was. Just a little lighter beige color with my white, just because I didn't want it to be stark white, to make that leaf a little bit lighter. Then I made this decal, Fall for Jesus, He never leaves. And this is so true. If you will depend on Jesus, He is never going to leave you. This world will leave you behind, but Jesus is always going to be there for you. So I love this little saying. I saw it last year and I put it on a t-shirt, and so I thought, well, this would be cute to put on a leaf. So I got these little tower tumbling blocks so that it would be a little bit more secure, because I didn't have enough of this leaf to put on that frame. So I really didn't even paint this frame because it matched that scrapbook paper so good. That's a win-win. I love when this happens. So now I'm just going to glue the leaf to those little blocks, and voila. How cute is this?
This first project starts out with an Easter basket I got on clearance at Hobby Lobby for 59 cents. We're just going to take that little label off, and then we are going to paint this with Summer Crush, all the sides. Not the inside, just the bottom, which is actually going to be the top, and the sides. And I just gave it one coat of paint. And I mixed Summer Crush and a little bit of cake batter and some Saltwash. And we're going to give this some texture. We're going to make it look, well, it's not going to look like a pumpkin, but you know, the illusion. So I'm using an old chippy brush, and I am just stippling on some quote unquote stripes. So, and I'm going to go back in between those a little bit, but not getting as much texture in there. So the most texture is going to be in the stripes. And then I just did a little circle on the top. That's going to be our top now instead of the bottom. Okay, so now on the bottom, I cut a piece of thin cardboard, probably came out of a Dollar Tree calendar. I don't throw anything away. To fit the bottom of this, I'm going to use some Type Bond Quick and Thick glue on the bottom of this, and then I'm going to use a little hot glue on the corners for just a little quick set. The Type Bond really does dry quick, but this hot glue is going to keep it from moving around while it dries. So I just put that on, and then I wiped off all the excess glue. Now we're going to take our dark wax by DIY, and we are going to take that old chippy brush and just dry brush it on. I don't want a whole lot on there, and I'm not going to wipe it back off. So I'm just going to go around the edges and just wherever I think it looks like it needs it. And on top, I did it a little bit in the center where I'm going to put that peduncle. Now I'm going to use this. This came off of an old chair, some of those old chairs I had when I was getting those spindles, and I took it out with my orbital sander and I sanded it down really good. I thought I was going to use it like that, but I changed my mind. Then I got out my weathered wood by DIY, and I dry brushed some on, took a wet wipe and wiped it off to get this look. Then I decided it needed some twine, because of course everything needs twine in the fall, right? Just humor me here. It turns out really cute. So I just put a little hot glue every now and again, and then just wrapped and wrapped and wrapped it around until I got up to the top, until it looked like I wanted it to look. You can do as little or as much twine as you want when you are doing your projects, and sometimes you might not even want to do any. So I'm going to take the Type Bond and the hot glue, and I'm going to put that right in the center. I'm trying to find what I'm using as my front. Well, this is going to be an all-sided project because this is going on a table for a centerpiece, and I have a round table. Okay, so now I'm just going to take some raffia, and I'm going to put some glue right there so this thing doesn't move. I want it to stay down there. And so I'm just going to glue that there, and then I'm going to make a bow. So I just folded it over, kind of like the awareness ribbon bow.
And then I'm just going to take a piece of that raffia that was extra, wrap it around a few times, and then tie it in a knot in the center. And easy peasy. I'm going to glue that right there. Looking so good. Is it not looking so good? Then I got out the jute leaves, burlap leaves. I don't remember what they were called on that. I did that so fast. You like how speedy I'm crafting today? And then I'm just going to wrap that. It had a little wire on it, so I'm just going to wrap that wire around the bottom of that peduncle and use that so I don't have to use as much hot glue. I'm just kind of poking it down in there so you don't see it. And then there you go. Now we're going to work on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to use this brown raffia I got at Hobby Lobby. I'm just going to tie a knot in the center of it and loosen it up a little bit because we want this to look, you know, a little bit different on the back side. You could put the same bow on the other side if you wanted. I'm just going to glue that down. This thing is easy peasy and it looks really pretty on my table. Let me know what you think. Now my next project was inspired by a piece that I saw at Hobby Lobby. So I have all those spindles. In case you don't know, you can go look at those videos. And so these are the long pieces on the end of those banister spindles. And so I just cut them the length that I wanted and cut those ends down. Now I'm going to take my DIY paints and I'm going to use aviary to do a couple of them. I'm not going to do all the insides because I want the glue to adhere really well, and sometimes paint doesn't adhere to it very good, so I'm just going to leave a little bit of the raw wood, and it's not necessary to waste our paint on that anyway. You are not even going to see it. I'm going to use beadboard on this one. There's the website where I get my DIY paints. I get them from Sammy Veltri at www.unicorndustdesigns.com. And she has DIY paints and recycled decoupage papers and all kinds of thrifted items and just lots of goodies. Just go over there and check it out. I'm going to use cake batter on a couple of them. And on these last two, I'm going to use faded burlap. These are just the colors that I chose that I thought would look good together. They're closer to neutral. The green is not really what I would call neutral, but it is kind of a neutral because it's not a bam in your face kind of green. Now when they're dry, I'm going to sand them down just a little bit, and that didn't really give me the look that I was really going for. So I decided to take a little bit of clear wax and I waxed them. And then I took a little bit of dark wax on a chippy brush. So you're going to see that. But I didn't want the dark wax to really make the paint darker, because sometimes the dark wax will make the paint darker. And I really liked the way that the colors looked. So I'm using the DIY dark wax, and I'm just going to kind of go around the edges a little bit and then wipe it down. And the clear wax is going to keep it from getting so dark. And if you get a little bit too much, you can always take the clear wax and wipe over it, and it'll erase it a little bit. Now I had this little block in my stash already stained. I had cut it off the end of a piece of wood already stained, so I just put some dark wax on it and using it. We're just using up stuff out of our stash on this one. So I'm using my Type Bond Quick and Thick again because it's an amazing glue. We're just going to glue these together. You see I'm gluing where I didn't paint. I'm going to line them all up across the bottom. I'm going to use this handy dandy clamp that I got off Amazon. I'll make sure they're all lined up, then clamp it down nice and tight. And it dried really fast, and then I'm seeing that looks really cute up there. I did attempt to glue it. Put a little Type Bond, put a little hot glue, and then I remembered once I stuck it down there, forgot to put the burlap around there. So I had to take it off before the wood glue got dry and wipe that down. So now I'm going to get my burlap out, and I've measured, and you can just kind of run that pencil down that little ridge. And then I got my scissors in the ridge and just cut a strip long enough to go all the way around our pumpkin. And so I'm going to use a combination of hot glue and the Tite Bond. The hot glue really worked good, but I'm just always afraid it's not going to hold up in the long run. So I ended up taking the clamp off and going ahead and going down the side with the hot glue, and it held up really good. It was fine. This was already getting dry and enough to stand up on its own stay together on its own without the clamp on there. So I just did the hot glue there, and you can see that I'm able to kind of manipulate that around without them falling apart. So the Quick and Thick dries really fast. So I'm going to go ahead and put this all the way around. And then I can add the peduncle up on top. It's kind of a fake peduncle, but that's what we're calling it anyway. And now I'm going to get out the messy Spanish moss. I get this at Dollar Tree, and I really like the look of it, especially during Christmas and fall. And spring for our bird nests. Now I'm going to clean up with my little desktop vacuum cleaner. I have that linked in my description box below if you're interested in getting one. I love it. It helps clean up really nice and quick. And so I'm just going to wrap this around, lay it across the top. I'm going to put some hot glue to keep it in place when I get it where I like it and how I like it. Just like that. Just like so. My grandpa used to say that. And Favy over at IOD DIY, she says that a lot, and it just makes me think of my grandpa. It makes me smile every time she says it. Well, we're going to do it like so. And we're going to glue those little pine cones in like so. I just love Favy. If you don't watch her, I say Favy. I think she says her name Favy. If you don't watch her, go and check out IOD DIY. She is really amazing. Now I'm going to choose this burlap flower over the other one because I felt like it matched the cake batter paint a little bit better. I got those other burlap flowers at Dollar Tree. I hope that they have some more when I go back. And these little pine cone looking things came on a stem, and I believe I got those at Hobby Lobby. Let me know how you like this two-sided tabletop decor piece. My next project was also inspired by something I saw at Hobby Lobby. Mine looks totally different, but inspired by that piece. These are 4 little pieces of chair legs that came from some of those chairs when I was collecting spindles. So I cut them all the same length, and I just sanded them a little bit just to kind of clean them up. Now this is that paint that I mixed with Summer Crush and cake batter. This is also by DIY Paint. And I'm just going to give it a messy coat, a thin messy coat. I'm not even looking for some full coverage. And I'm going to do a little bit on the tops and the bottoms. And then I am going to, I painted that little piece of a spindle off of a chair with Monet's Garden, and I'm going to take some dark wax and put on there and wipe it off. And I really thought that's what I was going for, but once I placed it in the middle of my little pumpkin, it wasn't what I was looking for. So while I had the dark wax out, I went ahead and put a little dark wax on the ends and the top of this and just a little bit in the middle. I just really didn't want to change the color of the paint too much, but I did want a little bit of dimension. So the tops and the bottoms really got a little bit more. Then I took a little bit of white wax and did it mostly in the middle, just to give it some dimension. And now I'm going to glue them together. I'm going to use a little bit of the Tite Bond and a little bit of hot glue to hold these all together. This is such an easy DIY. And of course, now I'm going to wrap some twine around this little spindle. And I just love that it is a different shape, and you can still see the shape of that spindle even though I did the twine. And I didn't do like full coverage with the twine. I still wanted you to be able to see that green through there a little bit. Then I put a massive amount of hot glue on the bottom of that. And now I'm going to take some more of that brown raffia that comes in a 3-pack with 3 different colors from Hobby Lobby, tie it around there. I'm going to do my little spiral curl trick where you wet your raffia, wrap it around a dowel, and then use some kind of heat source to dry it, blow dryer, heat gun, and it makes you some little spirals. And then these little picks that I had, little just pieces I had in my stash, have a little box full of little bits and baubles of things like this, and this is how it turned out.
The Crafty Cruise Getaway, where creativity sets sail once again. Join us on Royal Caribbean's Mariner of the Seas, sailing out of the port of Galveston, Texas.
Prepare to be dazzled as we stop in Costa Maya and in Cozumel. Just like our maiden voyage, we will host exclusive crafting workshops on sea days. We have some amazing projects lined up for you that guarantee something for everyone to enjoy.
For the Crafty Cruise Getaway 2025, we're introducing our newest sponsor, We Create. Elevate your crafting with the state-of-the-art laser engraver and cutter, valued at over $1,500. We are thrilled to give away one of these amazing lasers as a door prize to one lucky participant.
Mark your calendars for February 17th through the 22nd and join us on the Crafty Cruise Getaway for creativity, relaxation, and lasting memories. To book your spot, visit www.craftycruisegetaway.com. See you on board in 2025.
Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. Also, I want to remind you to go to our website, www.craftycruisegetaway.com, and check out the opportunity of a lifetime to craft and cruise with your favorite content creators. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.